It's illegal. It's crass. It's discriminatory. And yet, despite all of the training that's out there, all of the awareness that's out there, some managers still ask the illegal question, which religion do you practice? I'm Jen Swanson, by the way, your career coach, and I also happen to be an ordained church minister serving in a small and vibrant community of faith. And so I understand that this is a fraught topic, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But the first question is, why would someone ask this during a job interview? And how can you answer it in a way that is thoughtful, honest, and careful? First of all, you might be dealing with an inexperienced manager or interviewer, which can happen. Someone who isn't completely aware of what questions are allowed and what questions aren't allowed in a job interview. People get put into management positions sometimes with little or no training and then are expected to do everything and know how to do everything. And it could just be that you're dealing with someone who's inexperienced. It could be that. Or it could be that someone is fishing to find out about your availability and your schedule, asking if you observe certain holidays, if there are certain hours of the day or times of the day or times of the week that you can't be available, etc. Or it could be that the organization that you are applying to has got some religious undertone to it that hasn't been advertised properly or hasn't been overt in the job description, and that does happen sometimes. I know of a furniture company that has prayer meetings during lunch. It's not necessarily obvious when you first see the furniture company or walk into it that it is a religious organization. The person that I know who worked there was expected to be part of this gathering that happened on a regular basis. And so there are organizations out there that have a religious undertone or like to hire people who have certain faith backgrounds, and so they might be testing the waters to see if you would fit, but it's also good for you to know that this is what they're doing. If the position is not an overtly religious position, however, then there's zero excuse for people asking you this question. And again, it's illegal in most places because your religious affiliation should have absolutely nothing to do with your ability to perform your task and to be in the role that you're applying for. It should have nothing to do with your competence or your ability to attend. They could ask you about your scheduling. Are there any days that you are unavailable? Is a perfectly legit question. And if there are days that you would prefer not to work because of whatever reason, could be any reason, but if it happens to be a religious observation that you hold to, then you could just say, I prefer not to work Saturdays, or I prefer not to work Sundays, or I prefer not to work Friday nights, or whatever it happens to be. But you don't have to explain why, right? That is not their business. And so a question that is a fishing question is treading on dangerous territory. And you want to be able to answer in a way that isn't going to put the person on the defensive and that isn't going to derail your chances at the job if indeed it is a job that you want to have. The thing is, it's messy. Take it from me, a pastor, who, when I'm at a party that isn't related to a church event, might not always want to answer when people say, so, what do you do? Why do I not always want to answer? Because you would not believe the reactions I get. Maybe you would, but it's quite something. Sometimes people just leave. Sometimes they ask me all sorts of questions, which is fine. Sometimes they make assumptions like I don't swear or I don't drink alcohol, both of which are not true. Then, unsolicited, I get a whole bunch of confessions about why people haven't been to church or why they don't attend, or they used to when they were small, but then they grew up and then they had kids and then they didn't, or whatever. Things I never asked. And guess what? I'm not going to ask. And I'm not going to judge. It's not my place. At a party, I don't necessarily want to know that. I just want to talk to people and have a good time. Faith and your relationship with the sacred and the holy is your business and is not necessarily something that anybody else needs to know about unless they want to sit down and have a conversation with you about that and you're willing to share, you trust them, and you want to be vulnerable. I don't run around expecting anything of anyone. When I'm working with my church people in a church setting, that might be a little bit different. But when I'm out doing something else that has nothing to do with that part of the work that I do, unless it comes up naturally, I'm not always one to be forthcoming about that. And I'm always open to people if they seek me out. But here's the thing. The baggage that comes with faith, with religion, with spirituality is boxcars deep. Boxcars deep. And that's because historically horrible things have been done in the name of religion and are still being done in the name of religion around the world. So much damage has happened that it's impossible to assume or to presume or have any living idea of what's going on for another person unless you have a conversation with them. And those conversations, again, require a level of depth, a level of trust, a level of vulnerability that you might not want to enter into in a job interview. So yes, it's personal, it's sensitive, and it's tricky. And in a job interview situation, depending on where you live in the world, revealing your religious affiliation can be actually dangerous and can limit or inhibit your freedom. So it's not to be taken lightly. So how do you answer with integrity? You want to know whether or not this place is going to be a safe environment for you to work in, and whether or not this person, if they have any direct authority over you going forward, is going to be someone that you can work with. Remember, job interviews are two-way conversations. They're really not the best way to tell if a person is going to fit into a company or if the company is going to be a fit for the person, but they're the only thing we seem to have at this time. Nobody has really done anything groundbreaking as far as finding a new way to match people with positions. And so the interview remains the thing that we continue to hold, to have, and things have evolved within the interview, that's true, over the years, but it is still primarily this conversation to figure out if this place is a fit and if this person is a good fit for the place. If you feel, however, uncomfortable, if those red flags start to go up, it's good to pay attention to that. Don't ignore them. This is vital information. You're going to spend a lot of time at this workplace, especially if you're working full-time. It's a good chunk of your life that you're giving to this organization, and you want to make sure that you feel safe and comfortable and confident that you can be who you are and feel safe in the workplace. So, if you get asked, what religion do you practice, or something like it, in your job interview, you want to assure the manager or the person asking of your commitment to the position, regardless of how you answer the question. I will give you some samples here, though, in a second. You want to be able to assure them that you're committed to the position without your emotions getting away on you. It's really, really easy to trigger that amygdala and get, mad, get defensive. You want to try and keep calm and think about why they're asking this question. What's behind the question? Here are a few ways that you can answer. Are you asking about which religious holidays I might observe because you're determining my availability, or was there something else you wanted to know about? That's one question you can ask, and that might trigger this is not a question I'm supposed to be asking thought in the person, or they might give you the reason why they're asking this question. And then you can decide if you want to continue. You might also ask the second question. I'm going to give you, I think, 4 different responses here. So that was the first one. If you're liking this, by the way, make sure you hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. And let's keep going. The second thing you might ask is, I'm curious why you asked that. Does it have something to do with the position? Is it related in any way? And say that with a smile. You want to come across as curious. So use your curiosity. I'm curious why you asked that. Does it have any relevance to this position? Right? Perfectly legit response. Another thing you might say is, my beliefs have never interfered with the work that I have done in the past, and I'm not quite sure how they would. I'm a hard worker. My job is my priority. Would any religion that I practice relate in some way to the position that I'm applying for? Or is there something else I should know about? So basically you're asking them, is there something more? Is this, they might say, oh, well, we're a Christian organization, or we're a Muslim organization, or whatever. So they might say something like that, and then you will learn more about the organization. They might say, well, we have these prayer meetings at lunchtime on Tuesdays. Would you participate? These kinds of things. So it might get you more information if you answer that way. And again, remain friendly, remain relaxed, and try not to get triggered by a question like this. So that was the third question. And the fourth one is, spirituality is a very private and very complex topic, and I don't think we have enough time to have that conversation right now. I actually have a few questions about this role. Is it okay if I ask you them now? So that's asking a question and doing a bit of a redirect, right? And again, if it's an inexperienced person, this might be absolutely fine. If they really, really are digging and want to know, then you're going to know pretty quickly what's happening here. Hopefully, you'll be able to move on with the interview and find out all of the things that you want to know, and that will just be a little blip in the conversation. If you are comfortable answering, then go ahead, by all means. I'm not saying you shouldn't if you are comfortable answering, but I always want to know why questions are asked in the first place. So, and again, it is a very private thing. So if you're comfortable with it, great. If you're not comfortable with it, then these are just some suggestions for you. And if the person is inexperienced, we can offer them a little grace and a little forgiveness, because we've all been new and we've all been doing things, often been put in situations where we weren't quite sure what we were supposed to be doing. So that could be the case. It might also give you an idea about the cultural competence and awareness of the person doing the interview, and you might decide, I don't really want to work here partway through the interview, which is perfectly legit, right? You are also interviewing the other person, and a lot of people forget about that. They think it's very one-sided, but it's not. You want to decide if you're going to devote part of your life, a huge part of your life, to this place, this person, this organization, and so this is your opportunity to do that. It's also really rotten that there are assumptions, there are biases, there are stereotypes and more that exist around faith and religion. There are lots of them. You can name any religion and there would be assumptions and stereotypes and things that come into play. Now, if you're a perfect match, if it happens to be the same religion, the same belief system, and you find out and it fits for you, fantastic, and you're comfortable talking about it, wonderful. But just know that it doesn't have to be a given. In the future, if you are interested, I would like to make a few more videos on the topic of faith and spirituality in the workplace. So let me know if you'd like to hear more about that. I'd like to do one for managers and to how to make an inclusive and respectful workplace that allows people to express themselves in the ways that they want to, within reason, of course, but a place where people do feel comfortable and safe bringing their whole selves to work. And I'd like to do another video for workers, for people who want to be a little bit more free and comfortable to express themselves and their spirituality or their faith in their place of work, because we do spend so much time there. And so how can you do that in a way that feels safe and that in a way where you're not you're not trying to impose yourself on other people, because I think that's important. If you would like to hear about what I called the weirdest question I was ever asked in the workplace that is related to this topic, you can click on the video that'll be on the screen here. If you are interested in other stuff that I'm doing, like podcasts and other videos, check out the links wherever they are. And if you are interested in my super comfy work clothes like this top that I'm wearing, then there's a link for that too. It's called Mick, and it's super comfortable work clothes made in Canada and sustainably made, which is important to me. Thanks for watching, my friends. Let me know what you thought of this video, and I'll see you in the next one.